Hey, what's up creators? Today, we're going to be showing you how we can create a moving platform like we would see in popular platforming games. Now, this is going to be a great tutorial for those of you that are new to blueprints, as we're going to be covering a whole bunch of blueprint concepts, such as how to create a blueprint, how to use timelines, and just generally ease you in. Let's go ahead and jump into Unreal Engine 5 and get started. If you'd like to take your game development skills to the next level, be sure to check out my first-person shooter game course and my survival game course, where you learn to build a game in just 1 week. So for me, what I'm going to do is just very quickly make an Unreal Engine 5 project. I'm just going to be using the third-person project, and I'm just going to be giving this the name Sample Project. Now, you can call this absolutely anything you like. You also don't have to use the first or third person template. You can also use this for your own game. Okay, great. So inside of Unreal Engine now, I've got a player and I can run around, which is great. Now, the first thing that we're going to want to do inside of Unreal Engine is I actually need to create a blueprint. The blueprint is going to contain the logic for the platform and the physical representation of the platform itself. That being said, I'm just going to go ahead and right-click in the content browser and add in a new folder called Blueprints. Then I'm going to double-click on this to open it up. From here, I'm now going to right-click and create a blueprint class of the type actor, because I don't need a character or anything like that because I have one. And I'm going to go ahead and give this the name BP_platform. Then if I double-click on this, this is going to take me into my blueprint editor. And for those of you that haven't used the blueprint editor before, we have the viewport where we can see a preview of our blueprint. We've got our components list in the top left-hand corner. Then we've got the details for the selected object. Now, I'm going to add in a component, and it's going to be a very simple component, and that's simply going to be a 3D model in the form of a cube. And with this, I might want to right-click on this and just rename this to something like platform. Then, just like any other object, I am going to resize this using the transform tools. So I'm going to scale this down. I'm going to turn off my snapping. And I'm going to get what looks like a platform, just like this. Then, once I'm ready to actually preview this in my game, I'm just going to go ahead and press compile and save. From here, I can then take my platform into the scene by just dragging and dropping from the content browser. And if I press play, I should be able to run around the corner and see I've got my platforms here. And if I wanted to, I can step on them. And the reason for that is because these 3D models come with collision already, which is perfect. So now that we have our platforms in our scene, we can actually start thinking about the blueprint logic, which is going to actually allow us to get this to move and move automatically. And this is where we're going to be using some really interesting blueprints to do all of this for us. Let's hop back in. So within this BP_platform blueprint class, what we're going to do is a couple of things. First of all, I'm just going to go up to components and I'm going to show you how you can simply make this rotate to start with. So I'm going to go to add components and then just going to add in a rotating movement. If I compile and play on this and then run round to my platforms, you can see they are now spinning. And if I stand on this, the character is going to go with it. Really simple stuff. Now, we're not going to have our platform moving like that, just moving round and round. We're actually going to be making this go backwards and forwards from one ledge to another. The way we're going to do this is by going to our event graph. Our event graph is pretty much where we're going to have all of our code for our object. So what we're going to do is on event begin play, so as soon as the player starts playing, we're actually going to tell it to use what's called a timeline. A timeline just allows us to plot different sort of variables based on time, and the variable that I want to animate is just going to be the transform or the location, so we can tell this to move. You'll see this as we create this timeline. I'm going to go ahead and give this timeline the name movement, and then what I'm going to do is just simply on begin play, we are going to press play. If we go ahead and compile this, it's now going to start playing this timeline. There's nothing in there and it's not doing anything with the data. That's where we need to set this up. If we double click on this timeline, we're going to be taken into the timeline view. Timeline's really straightforward. It's basically just different tracks or variables on a track. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in a simple float track, because what I want to do is basically just take the platform here, and where we've got our X location, we're just going to move that one single variable. So I can add that track in. I can also right click and rename this, and I'm just going to call this X location. And then we can start animating on this track. Now, to move around this track, it's really straightforward. Just hold down right mouse button and click and drag, and you're going to be able to move around. You can also use the middle mouse button to zoom in and out. So let's go ahead and take a look at exactly how much movement we want this platform to have. I'm going to delete one of these, but essentially I want my platform to go from here over to here. Now with this, I can see it's the Y that I actually need to move, because it's the green axis here, which is indicated by the Y. And I just want it to move from here to here. And I can see how much movement that is exactly by taking a look at that variable as it adjusts as I move this. So what I can do is I can drag from here, and I can see the Y is 2,540. And then if I move it over here, it's 2,270 or 50 even. So I need to move this around 200 units using my timeline. Easy. So adding these points onto our timeline could not be easier. We're going to show you exactly how you can plot things on different times and with different values, so you can control the exact look and speed of this platform. So inside of here, first of all, what we need to do is define the length of this animation. We can see this up at the top. I'm going to set this to 7 seconds by just going to length and just typing in 7. Now, if I go ahead and press zoom to fit vertical and horizontal, I can see my track within this space. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add key to curve float here. And what I'm going to do is just simply set the value of this and the time. The time is going to be 0. Then what I'm going to be doing is simply just doing value, and we know it's going to go from 2550, so I can set that value to 2550. Then I can add another keyframe by right-clicking and pressing add key, and at 7 seconds on the time, I could set this to 2750. And again, I'm just typing that in and pressing enter. With that done, if I go ahead and click my zoom to fit horizontal and zoom to fit vertical, I can now see it's going to go from this value to the other. Okay, so with this movement, now that we've got our timeline set up, and you might want to change your X location to Y location, depending on the movement that you want to do, what I can do from here is I can now take these values that I've set up, and I can do set actor location, which is going to allow me to simply take the location from this and put it in as the new location. So with this, just drag out from the execution pin from update. On new location, go ahead and split this. Take our Y and drag this into the Y or whatever axis that you're moving. And then with the current values for our X and Z, whichever ones we're not moving on, we just want to hard code into this. So I'm going to put 1950 in here and 200 in the second one. If we go ahead and compile and play, and then run over to my platform, you can see that the platform is moving from one side to the other until the timeline stops. Just so you can visualize that a little bit better, if I go ahead and press play, run up to the platform, you can see it slowly moving across. And then as soon as the timeline stops in my blueprint, you can see the platform is also going to stop. Okay, at this point, what you should have is a platform that's going to move from one location to the other. What I want to do now is show you a little bit of blueprint so we can have that platform, when it gets to one end, move back. So essentially just reversing that timeline and then just looping over and over again. The way that we're going to do this inside of Unreal Engine, again, really straightforward. I'm going to open up this BP_platform by just double clicking on it in the content browser. The way that we can handle this logic is really simple. What I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to take this movement timeline here and I'm going to copy and paste this so we've got two. And what I'm going to do is when we finish playing this, we're going to tell it to reverse from end. And this is just going to play the same timeline, but in reverse. When we finish reversing it, we're going to tell it to play from the start. And what it should look like is something like this. And what we also need to do is with our set actor location, just copy and paste this, put this into our update, make sure that our target is set to self, and then just put our Y location in here. But now what's going to happen is when we do event begin play, it's going to play our timeline. Once it finishes, it's going to reverse it. Once the reverse finishes, it's going to play it, and it's just going to go round and around endlessly, pretty much infinitely. If I go ahead and press play, move over to my platform, I can then just take a minute to watch this. So it's going to get to the end, it's going to reverse. Let's see what happens now. Perfect. And if I wanted to, I could absolutely just go ahead and jump on this platform and I can move with it. And it's just going to go from one side to the other. That's it. So now you should have your platform. It's going to be moving from one side to the other side endlessly, just running on a loop. And all we're doing with that timeline is just some very simple logic. So it knows when it's played, when it's reversed, and it just keeps going over and over again. This really is the foundation of a side-scroller or platform game where you're going to have moving platforms and stuff like that. But what you will have learned from this is very simply how you can add a moving platform and some of the blueprints that come with it. A blueprint actor, timelines, and then just how to use the execution pin. That's it for now though. I hope you have enjoyed it. As always, stay awesome, keep creating. Virtus signing out.